EVTN News, your source for Catholic information, and we identify as the most flamboyant news network. I don't know. Anyway, uh, we'll get to Pope Francis, Bishop Zanchetta in particular, because Argentina didn't have enough bad stuff going on. So, LifeSite News posted an article a while ago. It said after having fruitlessly awaited for several months, the public prosecutor's office in Argentina had decided to continue without files that they requested from the Vatican, and the trial started February 21st. And the quote from the prosecutor's office is, as the hearing has already been suspended while awaiting the documents, the judge decided that the hearing should take place. So they requested files from the Vatican did not provide, and so they went ahead with the trial anyway, and guess what? Zanchetta was found guilty. There you go. So a little bit of background on the Zanchetta story, and this is actually a really big scandal. I mean, I don't think it's on the level of McCarrick in terms of in terms of numbers. Like I think the McCarrick scandal had way more numbers and more extensive cover-up, but Pope Francis has been shown to have been directly involved in this. Not that he wasn't involved with the McCarrick scandal, but it's hard to prove. Vigano says Pope Francis was involved in the McCarrick scandal, and of course this program is named after Vigano, EVTN News, Eternal Vigano Television Network. So, but getting back to Zanchetta, he was appointed Bishop of Oran, Argentina by Francis in 2013, one of the new Pope's first episcopal appointments. And this information is from the Pillar. Within 2 years, local clergy were complaining in the Vatican about Zanchetta's behavior towards seminarians. Yet despite mounting complaints from local priests, Francis sided with Zanchetta, according to the former vicar general of the diocese, even after obscene photographs of the bishop and of young men were discovered on Zanchetta's phone. The Pope accepted his explanation that he'd been hacked by conservatives and anti-Francis forces in the diocese. Even after the Pope finally accepted Zanchetta's resignation in 2017, ostensibly for health reasons, the Vatican still insisted it had not received any firm complaints against the bishop until the following year, despite considerable reporting appearing to show the contrary. Francis went further than just accepting Zanchetta's resignation for health reasons, though creating a position for him in the Curia and giving him a home in the Vatican hotel where the Pope himself lives. Pope Francis lives in the hotel, and he invited Zanchetta to be not really roommates but housemates with him. That's pretty bad. Perhaps most awkwardly for the Pope, he kept Zanchetta in a Vatican job and residence during exactly the period when the Church was reeling from the scandal of former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, and as the Pope was convening a global summit of the world's bishops to address the question of episcopal accountability. Argentinian Bishop Zanchetta was found guilty by an Argentinian court and sentenced to 4 years and 6 months of effective imprisonment for aggravated continuous sexual abuse of 2 former seminarians. There you go. While Francis did order a preliminary investigation of Zanchetta and announced that there would be a canonical trial, at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith of 2019, the results of neither process have been made public or shared with the Argentine authorities, despite papal policies explicitly aimed at transparency in such cases. In fact, it's not even clear what canonical charges Zanchetta is actually facing or has faced. So, we don't know what the Vatican's doing about it, if they're doing anything about it. And Pope Francis basically shielded Zanchetta for 5 years, gave him a free ride in his place. And the Pillar's kind of onto this, but also the guys at where Pachamama is, some of the Francis supporters are very uncomfortable about the situation, obviously, and this would be an even bigger story if there wasn't other stuff going on in Eastern Europe. So, and quite frankly, this needs to be a headline story. You know, did Pope Francis really believe Zanchetta that he had these pictures on his phone? Oh, he was hacked. Really? If you look at my phone, are you going to find those kind of pictures? Would someone hack my phone? I don't know. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to say I'm better than anyone else. What I'm trying to say is, if I found these pictures on my phone, would I keep them? If I were really hacked, would I have found those pictures on my phone? I don't know. I don't really know. Okay. Cardinal Woloki from Germany submits his resignation. Cardinal Rainer Maria Woloki, he submitted his resignation to Pope Francis just this past week. He's the Archbishop of Cologne, Germany. Woloki began his sabbatical at the end of September 2021 at his own request. Thus was the quote, at his own request, after he was confirmed in office by Pope Francis, who ordered an apostolic visitation amid fierce criticism of the Archdiocese's handling of abuse cases. Woloki does not support the German synodal path. It's interesting, isn't it? How a guy like Zanchetta gets shipped to the Vatican and gets to stay in Pope Francis's residence for 5 years. Cardinal Woloki has an apostolic visitation. Kind of a different situation of events, isn't it? Pretty different. Moving on to the National Catholic Register. Oh, actually, going back to Germany, though. Cardinal Woloki, if he opposes the German synodal path, then who's going to be his replacement? Is it going to be another German synodal path bishop? We have a good article at the end. We've got a good article to talk about at the end, but we're going to go to the Ukrainian bishops. They asked Pope Francis to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart. So I don't know if you watched Taylor Marshall's video. I think he talked about this. Maybe Father Mark Goring did as well. Now, the National Catholic Register, they had an editor's note at the beginning of this article. It said, Pope John Paul II did consecrate Russia and the Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary on March 25th, 1984. All right. Just a quote from the article. The bishops said in a letter, they published it on their website Ash Wednesday. Responding to this prayer, we humbly ask Your Holiness to publicly perform the act of consecration to the Immaculate Heart of Mary of Ukraine and Russia, as requested by the Blessed Virgin in Fatima. So now, in times of crisis, now they're going to say, well, we weren't so sure that this so-called consecration by Pope John Paul II, we're not so sure about that. Or maybe they're not. They didn't say that. But was it really the case? Did it really fulfill Our Lady of Fatima's request? And there's a lot of debate on this. I think Taylor Marshall had a video on this several years ago. And really, the conclusion was probably not. I mean, now they say Sister Lucia said this, but then there's talk of this fake Sister Lucia. So I don't know. I don't know if it actually did fulfill it. But National Catholic Register, I mean, it's the Vatican II, this is the Vatican II mindset, is that, oh, well, we need to post a disclaimer here. Pope John Paul II did consecrate Russia. But the Ukrainian bishops, I mean, if the consecration happened, like if it actually did happen, they're like, well, the Soviet Union did fall like 8 years later or so. I don't know what year did the Soviet Union fall. Was it in '88? Was it in the early '90s? I think it was in the early '90s, wasn't it? I'm not sure. They're like, well, like several years later, communism failed, so this prayer, this consecration of Russia, I don't know. I don't know how you can kind of like finagle that. Now, I will say John Paul II was completely against communism, which is good. Um, but I don't know. You would think the consecration would have more immediate effects, rather than however many years down the road. Like, oh yeah, it did count. I don't know. They're just trying to justify it, and the Ukrainian bishops are like, no, let's not mess around anymore. Let's not tiptoe around this subject. Let's consecrate. So this is actually an opportunity for Pope Francis. Now, I think if he was going to do it, he would have already done it. And this, I mean, seriously though, do you really think like Pope Francis is talking the talk, but do you really think he's going to actually do anything? He went to the Russian ambassador's place at the Vatican and talked to him for a little bit. Okay. Did he talk to Zanchetta? I don't know. I don't really know. But yeah, also what I was saying about the fake Sister Lucia, I mean, I don't know. Is that right? Was there really a fake Sister Lucia? I'm not sure. Um, and you can see different. Oh, I can't even select comments here. You can't even. Yeah, you can't even see any of this stuff. So anyway, okay, here we go. Let's move on. Knoxville. It's not about Sticka necessarily. Peaceful protesters of the experimental jab of minors on the grounds of the Catholic Diocese of Knoxville Cathedral are awaiting trial after they were arrested at the church's request last Sunday for trespassing. This is from LifeSite News. Jenny Hay, a co-organizer of the protest, and fellow protesters were praying outside the entrance of Sacred Heart Cathedral, where they planned to pass out flyers to attendees when they were asked to leave the property. So basically, at the Knoxville Cathedral, this is Bishop Sticka. They were given jab to minors. Yeah, Bishop Sticka might not be there very long anyway, but that might help his case with the Vatican, right? It's rotten, completely rotten. I mean, the church, you should have you should be having the Latin Mass or some prayer services in the cathedral, not a jab clinic. Is that sacrilege? Yeah. Yeah, it certainly is. Cardinal Gretsch of Malta is the Secretary General of the Synod of Bishops. Gretsch told Catholic News Agency one of the greatest challenges was understanding, quote, what synodality really implies. Though it is a constitutional element of the Church, unfortunately we still have difficulty to figure out now what synodality means, how we can really walk together, how we can really create space for all the baptized so that we can be one church. I think, yes, this is one of the difficulties that we are encountering. We have to. So Cardinal Gretsch, the secretary of the Synod, General Synod of Bishops, is having difficulty figuring out what synodality means. So am I. But I think Pope Francis has a clear idea of what he wants, and I think Cardinal Gretsch is being. I think he's being a little bit dishonest here. I gotta say, because I think he knows exactly what it means. I think he knows exactly what he wants, and that does not have anything to do with the Catholic faith. What synodality really implies? What do you think synodality really implies? I think I have a pretty good idea. Move over to a hero priest, Father Jesus Mary Misigbeto. On February 2nd, he was informed that his spiritual community, Opus Dei, expelled him for publicly criticizing Pope Francis for his support of LMNOP civil unions. The 42-year-old African priest had posted on Twitter and Facebook several statements contradicting the Pope's gestures and words toward normalizing and accepting LMNOP civil unions. By February 25th, Father Jesus Mary was told that all appeals have been rejected and that his only possibility is now to appeal to Pope Francis. He's now excluded from any priestly ministry, which is really a shame. Hopefully he can find a different religious order. Father Jesus Mary is now being punished for being disobedient, but he is clear on what true obedience and false obedience is. Personally, he said, I am not and will never be against obedience, but I think that obedience has a limit. Sin. You cannot demand a person to obey by keeping silent about the truth. It's interesting, and I actually think that, and I heard Kennedy Hall talking about this recently. Obedience, everyone seems to think anything that's not sinful is the extent of obedience. Like, you cannot disobey any command that is not sinful. So I guess if you look at it that way, if my bishop told me that I needed to get my account, a bank account with, say Bank of America, that's not sinful. I'm sure some of you might have. I'm sure some of you might have bank accounts with Bank of America. I'm trying to take a look at all these spammers comments. This is crazy. Okay. And I'm trying to report them immediately. If you see a spammer's comment, feel free to report it. And I'm not talking about like regular commenters. I'm talking about like legit spam. I don't know how they keep buzzing into here, but it's unfortunate because, I really wish I had real people watching. Thanks for watching if you're on the live stream anyway. But obedience, like, okay, having my bank account with Bank of America isn't sinful. I'm sure some of you might have a bank account with Bank of America, but if my bishop says, under obedience, I request that you open a bank account with Bank of America, that's not sinful. So let's take a look at perspective here. Come on, people. Like, what's within the bishop's authority to command something? Is he within his authority to command that the Latin Mass be shut down? Is that sinful? Is he within his authority to command that a priest face the people in a Novus Ordo rather than facing using the Ad Orientem liturgy? I don't know. Is he within his competence to silence a priest who's questioning Pope Francis' comments and requesting Pope Francis speak out in favor of the Catholic faith? I don't know. But Father Altman certainly got shut down, and Father Jesus Mary seems like not even the Father Altman level. This guy is just focusing on the Catholic faith, and he's focusing on Catholic doctrine. He's not focusing on the actions of the bishops, he's focusing on the words of the Pope. In October last year, Manuel Lago, the press speaker of the Ivory Coast branch of Opus Dei, told LifeSite News the same about Father Jesus Mary, speaking of the damage caused by his public statements criticizing the Pope. After describing the penalties chosen for this priest, Lago wrote that our attitude is that we pray for him, hoping that he will change his conduct, that he will prefer communion among us and with the sovereign pontiff, and that he can resume the exercise of his ministry. Notice he never said anything. He never said anything against Pope Francis, in terms of necessarily like, what does it mean, communion among us? Communion among us and with the sovereign pontiff. What does that mean? Does that mean being okay with every single word, justifying every single word Pope Francis says? Does that mean justifying the Pachamama worship? Does that mean justifying the things that Pope Francis has said about LMNOP? Obviously, yes. Does that mean justifying what Pope Francis said about the divorced and remarried receiving communion, directly contradicting the words of Jesus? Does that mean justifying Pope Francis contradicting the capital punishment, Catholic doctrine on capital punishment? What does it mean to be in communion with us? Opus Dei? Get out of Opus Dei. Come on, guys. Get out. Scott Hahn, get out. Scott Hahn doesn't need Opus Dei. So why is he still in it? Let's speak. What about all these other guys? There's a lot of Opus Dei connections. I don't know who's all in Opus Dei, but apparently it's at least half of the Catholic media. Even the good side of the Catholic media. Justifying everything. Sugarcoating everything. Taylor Marshall's speaking the truth. That's good to see. Apparently he had Opus Dei roots too. Not anymore. Not anymore. I think he's doing a good job, actually. Did you see the banana video? Apparently, I don't know. Apparently that's a Girl Scout song. They would sing that in the Girl Scouts. Watch the banana video. He's calling out these Novus Ordos, and there's one connection with everything Taylor Marshall says about these ridiculously crazy Novus Ordos. Every time he says something about it, their video is shut down. Well, they take down their video, they shut down their YouTube channel, or at least they make it private. I noticed that pretty specifically. So him doing these videos preserves it on the internet, and for all to see, including the bishop of that diocese, see what's going on in his churches, because obviously he doesn't have a pulse on what's going on, but it has nothing to do with the Catholic faith. And the priest in that video, he was, Taylor Marshall really didn't say anything about the priest. He said, I'll hold back on what I want to say. And I'll hold back a little bit too. But that priest, he seemed like every time when the kid said, the priest was going around asking the kids what their favorite part of the, I guess, confirmation preparation process was. And two of the kids said adoration, and the priest was like, It was almost like the priest was like, you didn't like my ridiculous games or my stupid jokes? You liked adoration? You're a kid. And it was like the priest was almost demeaning. His actions were almost demeaning towards the kids. Like, unbelievable. And then when the one kid said his favorite part was confession, the priest was like, "Ooh, well, how did that make you feel? Come on, really?" And the kid said, "Well, it was very. What did he say? I felt renewed. It was a very renewing experience." And the priest said, "Oh, I feel renewed whenever I see all these kids on the altar, and all these kids on the altar doing the banana song. And is there a chance that even 10% of them will remain Catholic after they turn 18? No, there's not." Got to call out these rotten Novus Ordos. And there's all and there were a lot of kids there too. And it's such a shame that they would attend such a horrific mass with a priest who, I don't know, doesn't promote the Catholic faith. That's fair to say. I don't even know who that lady was who was doing that stupid banana song, but she should be embarrassed. She should be ashamed of herself, and she should never be able to participate. She should never be able to lead any activity in that diocese or any Catholic church again, because that's embarrassing. That's an embarrassment to herself, an embarrassment to the Catholic faith. I mean, come on. These people look like they were what? Teenagers? These people are teenagers, and they're not gonna. I don't know. It's unbelievable. They're gonna do some stupid banana song. I don't know. Unbelievable. Okay. So let's go on to. Oh, here was a good one. All right, I was ranting about Opus Dei. Quit Opus Dei. Come on, people. For the good of the church, let's do it. Come on. Bishop Strickland, he encouraged men to attend Cincinnati Men's Conference. Now, keep in mind, he posted this on Twitter, and I think he said it in a video. This Catholic Cincinnati Men's Conference, it was, the speakers there are Jim Cavazio, I've never heard of him, and Raymond Arroyo, I've heard of him. You've heard of him too. He's a very popular figure on EWTN. And he has some good speakers on, Cardinal Burke. I think he had Bishop Schneider, Ed Penton, Damian Thompson. He gets in a lot of these he even had he interviewed Vigano over the phone. So he gets all kinds of good speakers on his channel, and not his channel, but his show on EWTN, and you can watch it world over. It's called, and you can watch it on YouTube. That's why I said channel, whatever. But his videos get like 80,000 views. I mean, he's pretty big time in the Catholic world. Now, the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, under Archbishop Dennis Schnurr, has dropped support for this conference because of the political views of the speakers. That was their justification. But it's a Catholic conference. Raymond Arroyo is a Catholic figure. Yeah, he's on Fox News, whatever. Would you be okay if Resident Brandon, spoke at a conference? Would you condemn that? He's a practicing Catholic, right? What if Father James Martin spoke in your diocese? Would you be okay with that, Archbishop? Double standard. It's really what it comes down to, right? But it's not a double standard because people like Raymond Arroyo are preaching the Catholic faith and people like James Martin are opposing it. It's not a double standard. It's an awful standard, but it's not a double standard. New York. The New York governor, Kathleen Hochul, delivered remarks at St. George Ukrainian Catholic Church in New York City last Wednesday when an outraged protester slammed the Democrat lawmaker for forcing residents of the state to comply with virus mandates. Now, he was ranting about something, but I think she should have been driven out of that church as fast as they could drive her out because she was obviously, Ukrainian, obviously. So they're looking to get any kind of political support they can, and so she's delivering a speech there. All right, whatever. She has nothing to do with any kind of military action or anything. Doesn't matter. But she was giving a speech in a Ukrainian Catholic church. This priest should be ashamed of himself. This is unbelievable. A pro-death politician in your cathedral giving a speech. His bishop should be ashamed of himself too if he doesn't suspend the priest, because this is ridiculous. We do not support pro-death politicians. These people that attended this speech should have driven her out. Told her to get out of here. You don't support us. If you supported the Catholic faith, you'd support death. Or you would support death. You would support pro-life. You would oppose pro-death policies of the unborn. You support death. You do support death. Unbelievable. They should be ashamed of themselves. You know who else should be ashamed of themselves? Innsbruck Bishop Hermann Gletter in Austria. He installed for Lent a large format photo of a naked man. Now the photo was cut off, so it wasn't, I don't even know how to say it. It wasn't the full photo, but he installed it as an altarpiece in the Innsbruck University Church. On social media, the man in the photo is identified as LMNOP. This bishop presented the full photo personally on Instagram, March 3rd, under the pretext that the performer was half Ukrainian. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. These people, like the LMNOP is now a cult in the Catholic Church. They worship LMNOP. I mean, they put up this LMNOP photo in a church behind the altar. Like, I don't even. What can you say about that? I mean, these guys. Do they have any? They don't have any faith. They're replacing religious symbols with an LMNOP man. Like Cardinal Bernardine did that in Chicago with a rainbow flag, and Cardinals and the priest, Father Paul Kalchik, he didn't even do anything. He let his parishioners take it down and burn it. And Cardinal Supich sent him for sensitivity training. Are we the ones that need sensitivity training? Are we the ones that oppose our religion? Are we the ones who oppose the Catholic faith? No, I don't think so. I think it's these bishops who are openly LMNOP, who are openly posting rotten photos, LMNOP photos. In an interview with the German magazine Bunte, published on March 4th, Bishop Georg Batzing agreed with the journalist's assertion that, quote, no one adhered to the church's teaching that sexuality should be practiced within marriage, saying, quote, "That's true." And we have to somewhat change the catechism on this matter. Sexuality is a gift from God and not a sin. It's a cult. LMNOP cult. They worship LMNOP. It has nothing to do with the Catholic faith. They just happen to be Catholic bishops in name only. Asked if LMNOP relationships were permissible, the German prelate replied, "Yes, it's okay if it's done in fidelity and responsibility. It doesn't affect the relationship with God." Batzing, the Bishop of Limburg, Western Germany, added, "How someone lives their personal intimacy is none of my business." So there you have it. The words have been spoken. And this is the LMNOP cult. And so you talk about Latin Mass versus Novus Ordo, but what about Catholic versus LMNOP? That's really what that's a battle. Captain Catholic, scandal, what scandal? Nothing to see here, move along, peasants. This is really a scandalous, this video, all these stories are like really scandalous. Patty, imagine a little trip through that mind for a day, Captain. He's talking about Zanchetta. Captain says, yeah, imagine that. It's pretty crazy if you think about it. Oh, man. Well, we can't get guitar blessings now. Can't beat it. Well, I don't know. I think we'll get something different, huh? Yeah, I saw that and almost puked. I need to take a break from media for a while. We're all suffering a little media fatigue, as Brandon says. Our hearts goes out to the brave Geranian people. What about the Iranian people? We need to support them too, right? We discussed the issue in obedience here, Ryan, a while back. Yes, watch that show, guys. Go rewatch it. It's not going to end well for these modernists. Well, yeah. How long will it take, though? Our Lady of Lost Salette. Rome will lose the faith. Yeah, well, I think it's already lost. There you go, Patty. It's already lost it. What can we say? All right. Well, that's the news stories I have. It doesn't paint a very good picture. But watch my daily reading videos. We'll talk about saints. There's a lot of Byzantine saints, and it's a very quick summary of those too. But a lot of these Catholic saints are pretty old. Not old, but it's from pretty long ago, over 1,000 years ago. A lot of these saints, and they were defending the icons against the iconoclast heresy. Do we have the LMNOP heresy right now? It sure seems like that's. It's an idol, and well, even in our modern culture, LMNOP does seem to be an idol, but in the Catholic Church, it really appears to be practiced, and it does appear to be certainly an idol, an alternative to the Catholic faith. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. This has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.